Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. A show where the host is confused by the producer. Anthony, this is Celebration by Kool and the Gang.
Yes.
You're not happy though. You're having like an anti-celebration based off of last night's sporting result for your this is for the Capitals. Congratulations to the Washington Capitals on advancing in 5 games, winning the first playoff series in the franchise since you won the Stanley Cup in 2018. Is that what that was for, Anthony?
Yes, that is what it was for, Craig.
Oh.
Ain't on my parade, don't you?
I thought, well, we talked more before the show about the basketball than the hockey. And so that's why I'm sorry, I just got, I don't know, maybe I thought you really liked fishing for your Lakers.
To be honest, I was hoping that we didn't even have to talk about it.
Oh, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. We can save it for the next segment, but we're going to talk about it. We'll also talk about the
nasty.
Commanders' return to RFK and what lies ahead in the challenge to make that a reality. Part 2 of our conversation with Washington Post Commanders beat reporter Sam Fortier coming up at 5 p.m. Never read the comments at 5:30. You'll hear from Logan on the Commanders not taking an edge rusher in the draft coming up at 4:30. But, Anthony, let's actually start with the Capitals quickly last night. And really, I would like to not thank the Capitals and not thank the Golden State Warriors and Houston Rockets for letting me watch anything last night. By the time I got home and got my TV on, those games were over. The show ends at 7. By the time I got home and turned my TV on, the Capitals were up 2-0. The Warriors were down 20 within like 10 minutes. I was just like, I guess I'll watch these games, but for what? And for the Capitals, I mean, obviously a pretty stress-free day. You love that. Especially as they, 2-0, sitting there for a while. They eventually bang home the third from Tom Wilson, and you feel pretty good about that going into the third period. And while we are sad for personal reasons that we're going to have to do our entire show tomorrow instead of getting off at 5:30 on a Friday, I mean, we are just so devastated that we have to do, or we have to do our show tomorrow. You get the point. It's a joke. It's a joke because we have to do our full show tomorrow. We're honored that we get to do our full show tomorrow instead of being off at 5:30 on a Friday. This is great for the Capitals. You don't let any doubt seek in. And I think on a bigger level also, Anthony, this gets them the equal rest basically as the Carolina Hurricanes. Because if this series had extended into Friday and God forbid into the weekend, Carolina's just sitting there. And not only does Washington leave no doubt and they get things straightened out very quickly, they do it with Alexi Protas back on the ice. And we talked to, how many people have we talked to? Everybody that we've talked to. Greg Wyshynski talked about it. Steve Wino talked about it. And yesterday, Sean McDonough talked about it with us before the game, where they were all just like, if they get Protas back, watch out. And sure enough, he's on the ice last night, and they look much more like the Washington Capitals that got the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference versus a team that was kind of skating by towards the end of the regular season and then struggling, even if they did win 3 of the first 4 against Montreal. But last night was much more dominant as opposed to the close games from the first half of the series.
Yeah, the close games definitely were a little stressful watching. I remember, I think it was game 2 or 3, where go down 1. No, we get on the board first, then they score. Then we got to come back and score 2 more. So, yeah, looking at this one was just a little bit more stress-free, a little bit more comfortable watching. And then also shout out to the grade 8 for setting the tone early. Like his goal, oh, my God, that was a snipe right off of the face-off. So it's good to see one of my teams doing well, because the other is headed to Cancun.
The basketball team that you root for outside of the Wizards, of course.
Yeah.
They're joining the Wizards. Although the Wizards might be done in Cancun by now. They're already back home and getting ready for next season. It's jump season, says Will Dawkins somewhere. Yeah, Ovi last night, I mean, just comes out. First of all, he leads the team in shots. He gets off 6 of them. But to get that goal early and set the tone. And, I go back to, I think it was Was it Wino Wyshynski? It was one of those two fine gentlemen that we previewed the series with, where I was just like, is there any world where the Caps can be dangerous and Ovechkin's not basically their best offensive player? And they were like, no. Like, he's got to be dominant. And he led the series in goals. He set the tone in multiple games. He set the tone in the series. Always, he's going to play physical and he's going to have that element to his game in the playoffs. But the fact that he is in goal scoring form, I think, gives the Caps a great chance. Obviously, Carolina's been a thorn in Washington's side this year, so we will get some more preview from some smarter hockey folks coming up before the series starts. Put it that way. We might do something tomorrow.
Where's Carolina, though, in Carolina?
Raleigh.
Okay. I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, as someone who grew up in the Carolinas, that is
that's why I thought I'd ask you.
A question that I know. They are in Raleigh. Why there's a professional hockey team in Raleigh, North Carolina? That I can't tell you, Anthony.
So I take it you didn't get out to those games.
No, Raleigh was about 4 hours from where
far.
I lived. Like, we would go up to Hornets games and obviously to Panthers games because I grew up in Greenville, South Carolina. It's just 2 hours south of Charlotte. But you got to go another 2 hours east from Charlotte to get to Raleigh, and we weren't going there for any hockey games.
Yeah, that's too much and too far.
Yeah, it would have been closer for us to go to Atlanta for the Thrashers for the 15 years that the Thrashers existed. Although that was most of my childhood. My childhood aligns with much of the Atlanta Thrashers' existence.
Nice.
And then they left and went to Canada. Where they're more appreciated. I still don't think we have any idea when this series is going to start. There's still plenty of series going in the NHL. Tonight, you got Maple Leafs Senators, Game 6, Golden Knights Wild, Game 6, Stars Avalanche, Game 6, Kings Oilers, Game 6, and then obviously all of those series could end tonight. That's the nature of a Game 6. Tomorrow, Jets and Blues. And then on Saturday, you have all those Game 7s that or from tonight if they're necessary, and then Sunday Game 7 Blues Jets if necessary. So the earliest this series could start is Monday. So we'll see how that when that schedule gets announced and when that goes down because they don't want to let the series get too off kilter in terms of the stagger. So I guess if they all end tonight, maybe you could get some earlier, but I don't think so. There's probably some super hockey fan listening. It's like, you're an idiot. They start Monday. Okay, thanks, guy. When we get back, a sport that I'm slightly on a more regular basis more tuned into, the NBA playoffs saw the Los Angeles Lakers season come to an end last night. Why? I actually don't think all hope is lost for the Lakers. And also a word on the Rockets' absolute demolition of the Warriors last night. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, and we're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Hey, goodbye to Anthony's favorite basketball team. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube too, at the Team 980. Where I have on the graphic, Anthony, T-Wolves eliminate Lakers in 5 games. Gobert, 27 points, 24 rebounds, and series-clinching victory. I almost put Lakers gone fishing in a sea of Anthony's tears.
Wow. You just want to kick me while I'm down. I'm down already. Did you see what I posted on Instagram last night? I was very unwell last night.
You were not good. You wanted to full on crash out.
I did want to crash. Yes, I did.
Let me ask you this. As a LeBron stan Lakers fan, I get being like, man, we don't have too many more years of this. Like, he's probably coming back for year 23 next year. I would not be surprised if there's a year 24 after that. Just because he's him, if you told me he plays 25 years and that's where he draws the line of like, I'm going to play a quarter century in the NBA because to this point it still looks like he can, that would be, just saying that out loud feels so dumb. But we know we're not getting much more than that if we even get that. So I understand that like every chance is so valuable. But did you really think that they had a chance this year?
Nah, I mean, I saw how the series was going. I didn't really have faith in the Lakers to get the job done just because they were just so small. The Timberwolves were the younger team, the more physical team, the more athletic team. And it was going to take LeBron James having superhuman game after game to like get the job done. And in that fourth quarter yesterday, even the second half, like he just had no more energy because he was expending so much on the defensive side of the ball that, you know, he couldn't really give more on the offensive side of the ball. So if Luka's the only person that's, you know, cooking, Austin Reeves has been a shell of himself this entire series. Like the Timberwolves just messed him up. And now you look to LeBron, but he's too tired. So what do you turn to? You can't look down the bench. So yeah, I just had to chalk it up to, I mean, this just isn't, you know, their year. But it also sucks because the point you just made, we don't have more years of LeBron James, and addressing getting a big man is something that has been their Achilles heels the last 3 years. And the fact you still have not solved that problem 3 years later and you're losing because of that is just wow.
What's dude's name with the Hornets that they acquired and then decided not to?
Mark Williams.
I was like, it's Mark something. I was like, Mark Davis. No, that's the wrong guy. Mark Jones. No, he calls the games. Mark Williams. How bad must his knee have been? Or must his knee have been to be like, nah? Because, I mean, he played okay for the Hornets down the stretch.
Yeah, average 15 and 10.
They had a long-term concern with him that, like, his knee is a ticking time bomb, I guess. And especially when Dalton Connect is a DNP CD, did not play coach's decision for so much of the back half of the season. So you basically ruin him for yourselves. Probably trade him this summer to let him go get a fresh start somewhere else. And I look at this roster in a very similar way to what the Mavericks were 2 years ago with Luka, 3 years ago, however you want to phrase it, the year before they made the finals. They trade for Kyrie. They crash out. They don't wind up making the playoffs. They then draft Derek Lively, add a couple of other pieces. In season, they trade for P.J. Washington and for Daniel Gafford with the Wizards, and they go make the NBA Finals. They need to go find Lively. They need to go find Gafford. They need to go find P.J. Washington. And Austin Reeves can't crash out in the playoffs. Like, it starts there, right? If Austin Reeves gives them more offensively, because it's not like they got blown out in any of these games.
Except the first one.
These are close games. Yeah, the first one, but like, okay, they come back and win game 2. And then I guess the next 2 are road games, but it's 116-104, and that, you know, was closer.
It was
late.
close, yeah.
And then free throws. And then 116-113, that's a one-possession game. This one's a one-possession game late, and they can't close it out. If Austin Reeves just averages 18 in this series, maybe they have a chance. Nevertheless, if they, you know, are getting 25 a night from him, which is what they're hoping for, or if Luka goes absolutely bananas and averages 35 for the series, you're just not going to get that from LeBron anymore. But you're still going to get 22 to 25, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Like, that's what you're going to get from LeBron, and he still was one of the best defensive players, if not the best defensive player in this entire series. But they have no rebounding. You know, LeBron's got 7. He's their leading rebounder. along with Luka with 7, and Jared Vanderbilt got 7 in 19 minutes, so I guess good for him. But Rui's an extremely limited player, offense only, and like good for him. He had 23 points, but he's got 0 assists because that's who Rui is. Like he is a will shoot, sometimes will score, will not give you a whole lot else player. Dorian Finney-Smith played 29 minutes last night. Like he's a role player. Austin Reeves has got to be more. You know, they dusted Maxi Kleba off last night. Gabe Vincent gave them good minutes. Jared Vanderbilt gave them good minutes. But, you know, Alex Len on the bench, nothing. Jackson Hayes on the bench, nothing. They looking for some offense. They don't even bother with Dalton Connect. So I think some of this you can definitely look at JJ Redick and say, hey, could you have gone deeper? And the answer would be to whomst. Like, would you rather just take your chances with LeBron and Luka, or would you rather go the other way and try some guys off the bench who you have 0 trust in? And so they've got to, this offseason, figure out how they build a better, more complete roster. And frankly, if Rob Pelinka, the current Lakers general manager, can't do it, I think he winds up on the hot seat here. And if I was JJ Redick in the head coaching seat, I would sit back and, you know, be a part of the process and be a good teammate and all that. But ultimately, like, if we're sitting here at the end of next year and it's the same thing, I'm like, guys, we can't get a dude whose number one job qualification was Kobe's agent, being the general manager of this team. This is not professional. We gotta do something else.
Yeah, definitely gotta change some things up. But again, like they should have been doing this the last 3 years. Even when Anthony Davis spoke out about getting another big in there because he doesn't want to be banging with Jokic and all these bigs. Like he was a stretch forward at the end of the day. Granted, you know, small ball does work, but it's not sustainable for success. And if you want to be a contender, like that's what you need. But I think when you look at Austin Reeves and the 6 turnovers he had, like. And JJ, this all he kept talking about in the post-game press conference about their inability to score. Granted, that is one side of the game, but also you got to be able to defend. And defense is ultimately what wins championships. Austin Reeves struggled. Luka struggled. Pretty much like everybody struggled. Even LeBron, like he had his lapses where he struggled defensively. So I think that's where their mindset has to be next year. You still do have to score, but also you have to defend.
Yeah, I there's no doubt they have to defend, but at the end of the day, like, it's 103-96.
Yeah.
You can't score 96. That they scored 16 points in the fourth quarter. Now, they also only held Minnesota to 103 because Minnesota missed 43s or something like that. It was insane. Yeah, they went 7 of 47 from
Oh,
three.
my God. I didn't even know they got the midi up. 53s?
Yeah, Ant went 0 for 11 from 3.
Yeah, he kept shooting.
So if he has a human day, if he goes 2 or 3, Dante DiVincenzo, a 2 of 12. Like, this could have been a lot worse. And so I get that. But at the end of the day, when you score 96 points, I also get wanting to focus a little bit on the offensive side. It's also, I think it's worth pointing out, like, I think JJ Redick did an excellent job this year. It's his first year as a head coach, and he says he knows he can be better moving forward.
You know, I'll use my own thoughts to evaluate myself, and I'll use what my players say and what my coaching staff says to evaluate. But, you know, I know I can be better, and I know I will get better. I don't necessarily take any satisfaction from how the year went. That's not to say I'm not proud of what the group was able to do and how we were able to figure things out on the fly and put ourselves in a position to have home court in the first round. But there's always ways to get better, and I can get a lot better.
He certainly can, and he's got maybe 1, maybe 2, most 3 years left coaching LeBron, who says he's unsure how much longer he's going to play.
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. Something I sit down with my family, my wife, and my support group, and kind of just talk through it and see what happens, and then just have a conversation with myself on how long I want to continue to play. I don't know the answer to that right now, to be honest.
I'd be stunned if this is it. He's just too good. And the opportunity to play with Luka in his prime feels like too good to pass up. But we all should acknowledge that what we're seeing right now from LeBron and what we're seeing right now from Steph Curry, who, by the way, feels so much younger than LeBron, but, like, he's 37, man. And Steph is still doing this. Like, we are very, very lucky that we've gotten this much great basketball out of them, and we should enjoy it while it lasts because there's just no telling when they – like, it's going to feel shocking when they decide to hang it up because I think both of those guys have taken such good care of their bodies and are so good that they're probably – like, for them to play till the wheels truly fall off, either it would be an injury where the wheels fall off and they're just like, I'm not recovering. I'm not doing the rehab to get back to NBA playing level. Or, like, their skills declining would take years at the NBA level because they are that well conditioned and that special at the things that they do. So we'll see.
I didn't have anything.
Yeah, you did. I cut you off.
I'm gonna be sad, man. I really am.
I feel like this is you've had a ton of guys retire, but
I've really had the chance to watch LeBron's entire career from the time he got drafted, I was 7 years old, till like what I am now.
So I remember when Shaq retired, and that was the one for me where I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, you don't remember the NBA without LeBron James.
Oh, I mean, nah, not really. Not really.
No. Like I barely remember it. Like, I mean, 2003, I was 13. So, like, I had the Duncan championships with San Antonio, the first set. You know, I remember the end of the Jordan era. Like, that was when I was starting to become a huge basketball fan. So, like, I remember a pre-NBA LeBron. It's just been a minute. But I remember for Shaq, where, like, I basically didn't. I mean, Shaq started in 92. I was 2 years old. And, like, when he retired, I was like, whoa, this is weird. Now, Shaq also the last couple of years was nowhere near the Shaq of his prime. So that one felt a little bit more of a gradual downhill. But, yeah, when the defining superstar of a generation retires, it's a weird thing. And it's a little less weird when it's like the way that Kobe did it, where, like, and you get the farewell tour. You
him
have
and D-Wade.
more time to do it. Right. With D-Wade, same thing. When it's just like if all of a sudden one day they announce it's over, it's like, whoa, all right, we live in a different world now. All right, when we get back, Take Command takes a look at why the Commanders did not take an edge rusher in the 2025 NFL Draft. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Anthony, have you seen the Josh Connerly challenge?
Yes, I have. Toby and Darius actually asked me to do it, and I just did it right away.
You did. Is there video?
There's no video of it.
Oh, let's see.
You want to see me do it?
Yeah.
That's easy.
You want to do it like right now, or all right? Hold on. All right, Anthony's going to do the Josh Connerly challenge. If you haven't seen the Josh Connerly challenge, basically, you have to get down on your knees, and then you have to pop up into a pass set. And your pass set's terrible. You look halfway between a pass set and a boxer, but that was a little bit better. But we talked about it on the show this morning on Take Command, and then we pulled up the Instagram video of Logan doing an absolutely masterful job because Logan's actually pass set in the NFL, which seems like a nice skill to have on the Josh Connerly challenge.
Let's get to it. From fun and happiness to pure unmitigated anger in the form of our first mailbag question. Logan, I've got various versions of this question, none quite as concentrated as James Liu, who both tweeted this at me and emailed me to make sure.
He's locked in.
Emailed. Yeah, he sent in his question at hoffmanshow.com. And he said, on the next Take Command episode, I need you and Logan to explain what we're missing about the defensive line. No edges drafted, none on this early UDFA list that's being reported.
Yeah.
What am I missing? Here's where it gets fun, Logan. Who's going to pass rush? Who's going to set the edge? God-awful.
So I'm glad that he worded it that way, because I look at this roster, and let me, as I talk, kind of pull the roster up while we're speaking. But I look at Dietrich Wise, I look at Cleveland Farrell, I look at Holmes, I look at Dorrance Armstrong, and what those guys do is they do what they're supposed to do. They play within the context of the defense. Goldman is one of the kind of, I don't want to say best, but he's kind of like this. He's a nose guard, so he's not a great athlete, but he's like a plus athlete nose guard who understands how to sit double teams, take on blocks, and on the interior, that's something that people struggled with last year, partially because there wasn't someone who knew how to do that. So I look at the run defense, and I think it's going to improve significantly. Just out the gate, right? And then you say, well, who's going to pass rush? And so what I would say is last year when they were constructing the team, they didn't want Dante Fowler to play on first and second down. They wanted other guys to do that. And then injuries and different things, like he played well, that changed, right? And so when I look at Jacob Martin, like he has a little bit of Fowler to him from a pass rush standpoint. So let's say you get half the production. Let's say you get 5 sacks from him. Let's say you get 8 sacks from Dorrance Armstrong, which I think is very reasonable in terms of, like, if he doesn't get hurt like midway through the year. I think he had a rib, if I remember correctly. I think he's in that
Something
8
like that.
range, 7 to 9 range of sacks relatively easily, right?
Which is what he does every single year.
100%. And then you say, here we get a couple from Fowler, we get a couple from Frankie, get a couple from Wagner off the ball in terms of their ability to rush. They're 2 of the best off-ball rushing linebackers in the NFL at the moment. And then I look at what you get from Kinlaw as a pass rusher on third down. Like that's going to be, let's say he gets you 5 sacks, right? Like all of a sudden, if you aggregate everybody together, and then Dietrich Wise, I don't think there's been a year since he's been in the league where he's had less than 5 sacks. People think of him as an edge, like stopping run player, but he's very intuitive on play action pass. He's got a decent feel on first and second down as a pass rusher, and he sneaks into these sacks. So all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, that's not a bad number when you kind of aggregate it all together. Now there's no, Myles Garrett necessarily, but what I will say is because you've gotten better, more consistent players on first and second down, you're going to be in third and long more, right? That's that's the thing. Better on first, second down. You're going to be in third down long more. It's more obvious passing downs. And I coach a couple edge rushers in the NFL. The one thing that I harp more than anything is third and long is a money down. And if you can find ways as a defense to get into those situations more, then you maximize even average pass rushers' ability to create sacks. So I look at kind of the aggregate of it, and I think when you kind of say, oh, this guy's going to give us 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and all of a sudden you're in like a very reasonable sack total. And then I think you pair that with what I think is going to be improved secondary play. Hopefully the quarterback holds the ball a little bit more. Hopefully you get into these situations where you can get what they call like coverage sacks. Hopefully that percentage increases by 5 to 7%. Maybe that's an extra 6 sacks on the year. So again, like all of this coming together, I think is going to be beneficial for the Commanders. And again, I'm not like, this isn't magic I'm doing. I'm just saying you got better on first and second down. That's unequivocal, right? And you've got guys with some pass rush, sneaky pass rush upside. So again, would it be nice if you brought in like, I don't know,
Zadarius Smith?
Yeah, Abdul Carter or whoever you're going to bring in.
Yeah.
Like that would be great, but like this is serviceable. And I think it's going to be better than people think.
Yeah, I would keep my eye on Zadarius Smith.
100%.
He's a free agent that I think fits what they do. He's a guy who can play all three downs and has pass rush juice, not as much as he used to, but still has some. But I think I think 2 points should be made here. I appreciate the question, right?
It's a good question. It's a legit question.
Yeah, 100%. And there are varying levels of vitriol in the fan base currently asking the same exact thing. And it's totally fair because they were not good enough in either department, pass rush juice off the edge, outside of Fowler, or their ability to stop the run last year. But those two things were related. Dante is needing to play more on first and second down. And I think you also have some more addition by subtraction potentially with John because the way he played didn't match with the way they played. And some of the freelancing and things really hurt them. And, I think it's funny to look back now at some of the Chase Young, Montez Sweat, John Duran years. And it's like, everyone's like, oh, if Chase would just do what he was supposed to do. And yeah, Chase was probably the worst offender of freelancing. But John Allen also freelanced a lot. Like part of the problem is all those guys freelance all the time. And if you got one guy freelancing and the other guy covering up for it, there's like a delicate dance that works. And Duran and Montez on their side occasionally would like get it really right on a week in or week out basis. And you'd see some of the production. But that entire foursome would get sideways. And it's just like, guys, someone's got to be the supporting player here. You can't all be doing solos at the same time in the jazz band. Someone's just got to keep the rhythm. Someone's got to keep the beat. Someone's got to play the bass line. And so I think in the long term, you've gotten better because you have guys that are going to be more dedicated to the scheme. And that is the first point I would make that I think you made really well in more detail with some of the guys they brought in. A guy like an Eddie Goldman, who is like the ultimate, just like, I'm going to sit here and play the drums and just keep the rhythm, and we're going to sink the double teams and do what we got to do. The other part of this is you are at the mercy of the market. That guy's not available unless you want to give the Cincinnati Bengals stupid resources for Trey Hendrickson.
2 first-round picks.
And unless you want to do that for a guy who's on the wrong side of 30, who you're going to have to pay $37 million a year, like that guy's not available. And I don't want to do that for Trey Hendrickson. All due respect, like he's an excellent pass rusher. He's got real pass rush juice, but he's not the complete player that Myles Garrett is. But he's going to cost you 90% of the cost. And he's older and the whole deal. So I just think that like there has to be a reality that the options weren't there to get that guy. Unless you think that like Donovan Ezeraku was that guy and he's way better than Josh Connerly and you can live with sacrificing Josh Connerly for Donovan Ezeraku, which I guess is a fair conversation to have amongst professional scouts who have varying opinions. But clearly that's not how they felt. They one, they passed on Ezeraku for Connerly. 2, Adam Peters told Josh Connerly on the phone, we were sweating when the Bears were on the clock at 10 until we picked you at 29. I think they had a top 15 grade on him in this class, and they clearly did not on Donovan Ezeraku.
I think the other thing I'd say, too, is you know what else gets you sacks? Good offense. Offensive game flow, offensive structure. This is like totally a take command answer because you're like peeling it way back, right?
We're answering everything but the direct question of like, who's the dudes? But you kind of did that first. So take that.
Yeah, but the thing I would say, too, is like if you're scoring more points, which right now I think we're constructed potentially, the team is constructed to score a lot of points, right? And if you're in good game flows where you're up by 10 points, like you know what teams have to do? They have to throw the football. And even if you're an average pass rusher, and I'm going to get more – that's the thing is like I do like breakdowns for some of my clients, and I'm watching, TJ Watt, for example, and I watch all of his reps. Like, and the thing is he gets a lot of 3rd and 10 opportunities, right? Because game flow or whatever, Myles Garrett kind of not so much, right? Aaron Donald, when he played for LA, you're like, holy cow, like this is a 3rd and 15, like, and he's like in a wide 6 rushing the guard. Like, you know what I mean? It's just those opportunities can't be understated too. If you just increase, because basically as an offensive coordinator, you're trying to limit the number of straight drop back passes as much as possible because ultimately that's like stretching your offensive line too much. So the one time you cannot do that is in a 3rd and long situation. And if you do well on first, second down, if you're in a positive game flow, if you're up on a team, like they have to throw the football, you're going to see more of those opportunities. And even if you're still maximizing those opportunities, let's say at like 10%, you will have more sacks as a team when the year is concluded. And I think that's important to understand too. So even though Josh Connerly, isn't an edge rusher, he does help the defense in theory create more sacks because again, he helps the offense be more effective, be more efficient, score more points.
And then I think the final part of it too on the sack side of it is the coverage piece, which you said. So you've got hopefully a better Marshawn Lattimore. If not, that's a conversation that we'll be having all year long, and they'll have to go corner again next year in the draft. You hope Trey Amos comes along fairly quickly. And then that also unleashes Mikey Sainristil in the slot. Like, he's a good blitzer. And so what can you get 3 sacks out of Mike Sainristil this year? And the other thing I would say too on both of those fronts, on like what coverage does, and then, kind of the sack production element of it, sacks can be a little overrated. Like, they're devastating to drives. And there's a ton of like EPA data that suggests like I think there was something that came out like sacks are actually more hurtful than interceptions, which sounds crazy, but
Right.
there were some like EPA data that came out about that, of just like how devastating sacks can be to drives, and then what it does to field position and the ultimate end result of that. But pressures can also be really devastating. And so, yes, having someone who can finish is good, but having disruptive players who can give your defense opportunities to get interceptions, who force throwaways, who force incompletions, like that is good too. And I think they've got some guys that can be really disruptive, even if they don't finish with sacks. And Deron Payne, for instance, his pressure percentage is the same every single year. One year he gets 11.5 sacks or whatever it was. Most years he's sitting in the 6 range. It'd be great if he could get to that 11 again, especially as we just talked about how devastating sacks can be. But I think creating those opportunities, and like you said, the more third and long you get, the more creative Joe Witt Jr. gets to be, the more he trusts the individual coverage players, the more guys he can send on blitzes. So there's a ton of factors to this. But I think, in terms of the people, I think some of the people that they brought in are better than people realize. And there was no opportunity to get the stud. And that's just the reality of the NFL. Not everybody gets one, because there's TJ Watt, there's Myles Garrett, there's Trey Hendrickson, and there's Will Anderson, there's 3 or 4 other guys. And Micah Parsons, and there's 32 teams. There aren't 32 guys. And hopefully next year the Commanders some way, somehow can find out how to get one or create one out of, a hybrid type of piece that falls to them that Dan Quinn knows what to do with.
Yeah, and I don't know. This is interesting. I just looking up the guy they signed from the International Pathway Program. He's like got like a freaky profile for an edge rusher. You know what I mean? And so they do have some of these kind of, again, like I'm not saying he's gonna make the team, but like developmental traitsy guys that could figure something out. So I think that if you're looking for like your traditional edge, right? Like that like pass rushing guy, again, that's not really what they've done. But I think if you think defensive philosophy, they've made, I think, the right decisions and the right moves to raise the floor of the defense, which I think raising the floor of the defense increases, like we talked about, these pass rushing opportunities. And again, I think Jacob Martin's a good pass rusher, and if you give him a lot of opportunities, a lot of bites at the apple, he's a guy that can finish. And I think he fits what they thought, Fowler was going to be last year, where it's like a situational guy. And is he as good? Does he have the name recognition? No, but given the right situation, the right opportunities, like I think about him, Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner, Dorrance Armstrong, like that's a pretty formidable group of guys who have some pass rush ability with Javon Kinlaw, Deron Payne, or Jerron Newton on the interior. Like those guys can win one-on-ones. You know what I mean? And so then all of a sudden the dynamics a little bit, when you frame it like that, you're like, maybe there's not one guy, but I like the opportunity that of those 6 guys, one of those guys is going to win on one-on-one on one of the 5 offensive linemen and the back. Like it just feels like a good opportunity. So
for sure. And as you mentioned too, off the top, we almost blew past the run defense part of this. Like they got better edge guys on setting edges for the run. Dietrich Wise is very, very good at that. Dorrance is good at that. So there's they've got guys. Cleveland is good at that.
That's like what he's good at.
But
and like Jalen Holmes, I think like he's sneaky good at it.
Jalen Holmes was really good at it last year. And so, there's definitely, Kinlaw. Can you put him out on the edge and see what happens there? I think that's an interesting one as well. So we'll see what they do and what kind of fronts they play. And there's a lot of there's a lot of questions I think we have, good questions of like, hey, you could do a million different things. Which one are you going to do?
Right.
That we'll start to learn coming up in the spring.
So as I was saying, Anthony, we watched Logan do the Josh Connerly challenge, and then we talked about all that stuff.
My bad.
And Anthony got a little butt happy.
I did. I think I was feeling myself after.
You did the Josh Connerly challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I went on the Commanders page and I actually saw it as well.
Yeah, this is literally the first thing when I opened Instagram I saw. So there's that. Yeah. So we talked about Logan doing the Josh Connerly challenge. We talked about what you just heard. We also answered a couple of other mailbag questions and looked at the rest of the NFC East draft. So if you want the full episode of Take Command, check that out wherever you get your podcasts. We will also be dropping our full conversation with Sam 48 there, as well as in our feed for the Hoffman Show. But if you missed part 1 yesterday, part 2 coming up at 5 o'clock. Well, I got one more thought I want to add to the edge rusher conversation next, before we get to 48 here on the Team 980. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. Coming up at 5 o'clock, part 2 of our conversation with Sam Fortier about what lies ahead for the Commanders at RFK and to get to RFK and get back into D.C. And also some conversation about PSLs and tailgating and some of the football-y specific stuff when it comes to the Commanders experience. But Anthony, I wonder, coming off of our conversation with Logan about the edge rusher miss, if you will, in the draft. And by the way, we'll get into this deeper and never read the comments at 5:30. Are we making the same mistake that we made with the offensive line last year? That's kind of where I think I'm at right now, where I just go, yes, the talent could absolutely be better along the defensive front, but it's not as bad as people think it is. And schematically, there's going to be stuff they can do, and the talent around it is going to improve, and the game circumstances are going to be different, and that's going to matter too. And I think that's kind of where I sit after the conversation with Logan, because he made a bunch of good points, including like Josh Connerly helps your edge rush, because if you can be up more in more games and create more situations where teams are just having to drop back and pass and they're chasing Jaden Daniels in that top 5 offense, well, now you got more opportunities to pin your ears back. And so there's just, it's a more complete football look. It's not as easy as plugging in Myles Garrett, but it is, I think, maybe not the best they could have done for the edge rushers, but I do think they've done what's best for the football team overall.
I think, well, to answer your question, are we making the same mistake? Maybe. And the only reason I say maybe is because I feel as though Jaden Daniels last year also bailed the offensive line out a lot last year. So I think it can be twofold to an extent. Like Jaden Daniels definitely, bailed them out, but also Cliff did a good job of trying to get the ball out of Jaden's hands, get screens to the running backs and things of that nature. So
but everyone thought they couldn't play, like that they were going to throw up all over themselves and go 0-17 because their offensive line was so bad. And I feel like some people are just like, they're never going to get a sack. They're just going to give up 1,000 points a game. And it's like, yes, they gave up 55 to the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. I realize it was bad. Also, if they could have stopped the run against the Eagles, they'd have more pass rush situations. And they've gotten way better up front against the run. Dietrich Wise, good run player. Eddie Goldman, good run player. Javon Kinlaw is an interesting piece. He hasn't traditionally been a good run player, but what happens if he becomes that kind of what do they call it? The whatever edge term the elephant edge. Like, could he be a good run player in that? So like, I just think that you have to look at a lot more than just the personnel when you're evaluating this stuff, and that's all people wanted to do last year, and I feel like they might be doing the same thing again. We'll talk about it more at 5:30 and never read the comments. But coming up next, part 2 of our conversation with Sam Fortier on the Commanders' attempts to get back to D.C. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. Yesterday, you're part one of our conversation with Sam Fortier about his reporting on the Commanders and RFK and going kind of the setup to how we got to the point where we are right now, where City Council is the last hurdle for the team and the mayor's office to clear. They got it out of Congress. They came to a deal, and now they join forces to get this thing through City Council and ultimately bring the Commanders back to the district. Part two of our conversation now on what that looks like, and then like literally what it looks like. Things like tailgating, things like PSLs. We get into it all. We'll put the full conversation up on YouTube and in our podcast feed. It'll also live in the Take Command feed as well, so wherever is most convenient for you if you want to listen to the full 45 minutes uninterrupted. But here you go, part two of our chat with Fortier on RFK.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not my beat.
So let's dive into some of those arguments, if you will, because I think like there's a lot of language here that gets real political. That is very, when I say political, it's politicians trying to sell constituents on this is the right thing for the city. This is the right thing. This is what I'm fighting for, and thus why you should vote for me again, basically, right? But it does get into some value judgments of like, I as a district citizen, I'm willing to pay some extra taxes to have the stadium at the RFK site because I want it in the city. That is not just for what it can do revenue-wise. That's not economic reasons. I'm not an economist. I don't have to drive as far. I like having it close by. I like having it metro accessible. So like, I personally am willing to pay that convenience and split the cost with my fellow citizens for not having the stadium in certainly Prince William County, but even in Landover. So there's that side of it. But then there's also kind of the claims that get made here on some of the financing where they're saying, oh, we won't have to introduce any new taxes because they're extending the already existing ballpark tax, or they're going to, apply that same principle to the stadium. And some of the money is actually going to be generated from 2030 to 2032 once the stadium is open. And then you say, okay, well, that money is then paying back the rest of the bonds, and then the profits can start after that. The other big part is that, and this is where I don't know if you know the answer, but like I would want to ask a Charles Allen, a Phil Mendelssohn, these types of questions is the argument for not building the stadium is you don't need a stadium to anchor a neighborhood, which is absolutely correct. And every economist will tell you it is better. Like if you want better return for investment, build more housing, build grocery stores, build shops, build all those things, not a football stadium. But if you don't have a football stadium, you still have to build the roads, update the metro, do all the infrastructure work that the money that is the public money would have to pay for. So like, do we have any idea what an alternate plan would look like and how much that would cost taxpayers? Because I think that is a relevant thing because they're trying to make it seem like, oh, well, if you build a stadium, it's going to be $1 billion of public money. And if you build no stadium, it's $0 of public money. But I want to know how all this stuff's getting done without the Commanders' $2.7 billion, even if a lot of that might go to the stadium, because that is a relevant figure in fact here as well.
Totally. And that's something that we don't have a lot of clarity on because the mayor and the council have not put forward, which makes a lot of sense because this is plan A.
Right.
And they're going to go hard on plan A until, it gets voted down or it gets approved. But we don't have a great sense of if the stadium was not there, how many more housing units would there be? How much public investment would it cost? People always talk about the Wharf 2.0 basically, or that's the model they want to use. And I think that, there's very legitimate concerns talking to my Metro colleagues about when you go to the Wharf, there's some affordable housing, there's some like luxury housing, and there's like very little in the middle.
Yeah.
So when they promise, okay,
you also pay
the RFK site,
$8,000 to park.
right. The RFK site, the city says is 30% is going to be affordable housing. But then like, how do you make sure that it's not 30% affordable and 70% luxury? Right. I think that that's like creating not just a community, but a well-balanced community. I think that's going to be something that the mayor's office is going to have to figure out too. And it's important to acknowledge that when they go public, that does not mean they have every single detail ironed out. The Commanders, for example, have not even hired an architect yet, but you have to go public because if you're going to have this many people involved, like it's going to come out. And so you want to set the terms of, hey, this is how we want to present our idea. But basically like we know the big numbers, 2.7 private investment, just over $1 billion public investment. Here's where the sites are. Here's who would control these different districts. But we don't have all of the details yet. And that's something that, like, I think council members and citizens have a real opportunity to shape going forward is, hey, what demands or what concessions can we get them to accept as they hammer out the finer points of this deal?
The other big thing that I find fascinating, I think you're a great person to ask about this, is the idea that this land is probably still locked up in Congress without the lobbying effort of the Commanders in the NFL. And while Josh Harris has said the right thing, which is we think this land is best in DC's hands and letting DC decide what to do with it, they're not going to be this involved if they didn't think they were getting a stadium out of the deal. If they put in that much work and that much money to lobby and the effort and the time and all that kind of stuff, and then it's like, all right, now we got the land. You guys have fun with it. He's not going to be psyched about that. Do you think that argument will carry any water with any of the city council folks who are currently or currently undecided on this? That, like, you don't have this decision to make if it's without the Commanders. This land would still be locked up and rotting away for at least another year, and like it has been for most of the last 30 years.
I think that was one of Maryland's main arguments when they were raising objections to the RFK bill in the first place. They said, hey, like, you're doing this to get a football stadium, and we don't believe that using taxpayer funds in a football stadium, or we don't believe that, giving the Commanders free federal land, they're paying $1 in rent. We don't think that is like a fair competition. That was like their main counter argument. And so when you would ask Charles Allen or any of these council members, like, they love that DC has control of the land. No one wants RFK Stadium as it's been for the last 20 years.
Right.
But it's all about taxpayer funding. So is there any argument to, like, the Commanders helped you out? I would say if I'm a council member and you ask me that question, I'm like, it's very nice that the Commanders, like, were interested in helping the city, be at the table, and the NFL was interested in helping the city be at the table in this competition. But that does not mean that we have to then give you the land for $1 rent and then give you development rights, or that we have to contribute more than $1 billion of taxpayer money. And that's a totally legitimate, defensible position for a council member to take. And if I'm Mayor Bowser, it's like, they helped me, I'm going to, work with them on a deal.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so I feel like that's most of kind of the hot button things that have been discussed the last couple of days. What else is interesting to you about this moving forward?
The whip count. Like, are they going to pass this deal is fascinating to me, because it's fascinating to me because at the pep rally announcement, there were 4 council members, and right. I can go into those if you'd like, but there were 4 council members, and then there are 3 pretty vocal public, we do not believe in either A, stadium, or B, taxpayer funds for a stadium, who have come out against it. And right now there are 12 members on the city council. It's 13 members, but Ward 8 is vacant. So you're going to have to get, there's 4 for, 3 against. That leaves 5 people still still sitting, and you have to figure out, how do we get 3 of those people? And actually, the exclusive negotiating window, as outlined in this term deal, is it ends the same day that the special election for the Ward 8 council seat is. So you're really going forward with, hey, there are 12 people, 4 are with us, 3 are against us. Can we get 3 of the 5? And that, to me, is a fascinating question, because it's going to probably determine, like, can they build the stadium or not?
Right. And we know that when Nats Park was built, for instance, there was a Nats baseball academy in Ward 7 that had to get built. I imagine there's going to be things like that. Like, what happens in other places that, whether it's support for youth football programs or Lord knows what else. Hey, all right, Events DC is involved. We need a new parking garage. Like, there's going to be stuff that gets thrown in here to make these people happy. Do we have any idea of those 5, like, what some of their demands might be? Or is there any particular 1 or 2 that are really interesting to you of what you think they might want based off their past histories or previous statements?
So the other 5 council members that we're talking about here, Robert White, Christina Henderson, Matthew Frumman in Ward 3, Zachary Parker in Ward 5, and Janice Lewis George in Ward 4. Like, those 5 people, I don't know exactly what their demands will be. They're playing pretty coy, because right now in this negotiating period, the vaguer you are, the more commitments you try to get. I mean, this is a thing that, like, will be impressed by the timeline or improved by the timeline. And so right now, like, we just don't know where they're going to be. But I got to tell you, Craig, like, one political phrase that surprises me every time I hear it, even though I've been writing political adjacent or political stories or working on them with my colleagues for 3 years now, is like, there's a term, pound of flesh. They always talk about, like, this council member has to get their pound of flesh.
Yes.
And it's so funny to me because it's like, people talk about, football can be so brutal and violent and gladiatorial. And it's like, okay, well, this congressman is objecting to this deal so he can get his pound of flesh. It was so popular when we were talking about the Montana senator, Steve Daines. It was like, oh, he's trying to get his pound of flesh. And to me, it always is like, oh, like that's a wild way to phrase that.
They just want the thing they can put in the ad
Totally.
to get reelected. And that's like, ultimately, that's what this is about for so many of these people is like, yeah, they run for a reason. Yeah, some of them are in it for public service. Hopefully all of them are in it for true public service and they'll have the public's best interest at heart, but they also want to keep their jobs. And like so much of politics and what gets done is about that. Who am I willing to piss off? Who am I terrified of pissing off because they might fund a primary challenge or this or that or it's all very silly. But you'd hope that you actually get what is best for the district. And that's what they're all going to say, right? They're all going to be like, I will do a deal that's good for the district. And Mayor Bowser's like, well, we want the win-win-win. We want what's good for the district, good for the commanders, all this stuff. And it's just like, my question is like, what is good? And I think that's the thing that is hard. And, you got all the marketing materials, if you will, here. And one of those pages says, oh, there'll be no new taxes and no new that. And I saw there was the polling yesterday. JP Finley tweeted out the polling from, it's like Hart Research or something like that, which
Team funded.
Yeah. As a team, it based off the percentages and the way the questions were written, very team funded, which fine. And it's like, do you support a stadium at RFK if there's no new taxes? And it's like, 85% yes. And it's like, no kidding. But that's not the right question. The question is like, can they actually do that? And I think part of the other question I have, Sam, is like, if they can't, who foots the bill for the extra? Because the reality is like, this is getting into national politics, but it is what it is. There's no way to separate these things. Like Trump's tariffs could massively affect the cost of a stadium. Like if you're talking about construction materials right now, and shipping costs and all these things, like we truly don't know based off what deals he cuts with what countries and where the steel and the concrete and all of these things that go, the microchips for all the technology. Like they're anticipating the stadium to cost X amount. What if the stadium costs 2X? And like who pays for that? Like those details are really important too.
Two things there. One, Terry Pagula owns the Buffalo Bills, and the Bills right now are building an approximately 65,000 seat stadium. And he actually addressed this the other day. He said it's actually more expensive to build this stadium than we thought, and that's a huge deal. I don't want to be too out of my depth talking about what Trump's tariffs will mean, but I asked Josh Harris who will pay for the cost overruns of this project if there are any. And he said the Commanders, 100%. So
okay.
That is a pretty clear-cut answer where if the tariffs or something else affect the cost of goods,
there could be a million
the
different,
Commanders are going to cover it.
Yeah, I mean, just the natural way these things go. What was the last construction project you heard of that came in on budget? Now, because of the current economic situation and the trends and the predictions, most economists and most experts agree that like this is something that is going to affect it. But I'm curious how that was why I think that's like a really important caveat is it, one, it's construction. It's probably going to come in overpriced. Two, the way construction costs are headed right now, if they design this thing, in the last 3 months, what the construction costs are a year from now are totally unpredictable. Maybe they're better. Maybe they're not. We don't know. But understanding that kind of stuff is really important because so often in these things, it's like you get the private pledge and then the public has to foot the rest of the bill. If we know that the Commanders are doing it going in, I think that's great. And it also speaks to what I feel like is almost a unique facet of this project too. They're not just going to build the stadium. Like they are responsible for the development of most of the stuff around the stadium, which actually, I don't want to say like, I don't know. I don't know how good the city is at building stuff. I don't know like who did the wharf and whatever else, but I do kind of trust the Harris group to do whatever they do well. And I am fascinated to see how they develop these different districts around the stadium, as Sam is holding up here.
Yeah, people can't really see it.
The stadium district, the riverfront district, the recreation district, and like what kind of stuff goes here and how Commanders branded it is if Josh Harris and the Harris Group are, the main constructors of the rest of this 180 acres.
I think that's a trend you're seeing across sports right now. Everybody loves to talk about the Battery in Atlanta with the Braves, but like Mark Cuban, when he sold the Mavericks, like said he understood the edge in the early 2000s. He understood media rights deals were going to drive an explosion in franchise valuations, which is why he felt like the Mavericks were a good bet. He sold it because he felt like he did not understand the next edge, which is real estate development. And if you go down, it's like the Washington Commanders, the Atlanta Braves, the North Carolina State University Wolfpack, like want to build these ancillary development projects. You want to control real estate in the same way that Stan Kroenke did with the Rams. Like there are so many of these projects, I think, at this point that are driving, like the land acquisition and development is driving the franchise valuations now as much as anything. And so, what can Josh Harris do? I mean, they want to put bars, they want to put restaurants, they want to put, mixed use development at retail to like drive, valuations up. And I think it also is a part of tailgating, which we can talk about. But to me, like they have in their orbit people that know how to do those things.
Yeah.
That was going to be a part of the Ted Leonsis deal in Virginia. So to me, land development goes part and parcel with owning a sports team these days.
It's the old McDonald's theory. McDonald's not a restaurant; they're a real estate company.
Exactly. Like I don't know if you saw The Founder, the movie.
Yeah, that's exactly.
But that's the scene. Like when BJ
Right.
Novak is like, you don't know what business you're in. I really think that's what's happening in sports right now.
Which is interesting too, because I think Keim asked Harris about this, of like the investment side of it, and he was basically like, "Look, we want to do it right by the fans, right by the team, right by the city." And like, if it works out for us in the long term financial, like this is not the best way I could invest this money if I was purely doing this as an investment. But also, being a landlord is a pretty good deal in the long run.
I was gonna say, Josh Harris is a smart guy.
Yeah, I feel like he's like this is a way. But also, if you're gonna put up $2.7 billion, like I'm not like, hey, go billionaires by any stretch of the imagination.
Hold on. I'm going to clip that just so you know. I'm going to clip you going, go billionaires, and that's it.
You're going to cut off the I am not right before
exactly,
it?
Exactly. It's like
all right, that was a great time to have Sam. Get the hell out of my
from,
get
the
the hell out of my house. No, but I'm certainly not go billionaires. But if you're going to put up $2.7 billion, it's not like you're not allowed to make any of that back. Like,
yeah, I mean, when you get 20 people in your ownership group to spend $6.05 billion on this thing, like people want their money back. Like,
yeah.
Mitch Rales, Mark Gein, Josh Harris all have an emotional connection to this team doing right by the city. But like, there are people who don't have that emotional connection who see this as a business opportunity. And it's like, where's my ROI?
Yeah, well, the franchise value is going to go up, and that maybe they cash out after some of this. We'll see. But it's definitely going to be interesting to follow some of the pieces. Speaking of one of the other owners, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this part up. Magic Johnson, not only an owner with the Commanders, he's an owner with the Washington Spirit as well. And this actually came out in a New York Times, or I guess the Athletic piece today, that Jason Wright, who, of course, former Commanders president, mentioned to the author of this article something that, frankly, I had talked with Jason about, over the course of the last couple of years, which is that they have been in contact with the Spirit about, do we want to partner here? Is there an opportunity to do something similar to the Star in Frisco, where it's like, can we build a 10,000 seat stadium that is a practice facility for the Commanders and maybe an actual stadium for high school football or the Spirit or both of those entities? And I think now with the way the Spirit are rolling, 10,000 is way too small because they're selling out Audi Field on a regular basis. But I did see in one of, I think it was whatever the sheet is over here with all the logos on it of the different things they could do. Like the Spirit's logo is in there. And they talk about, opportunities for women's sports. They talk about some of the other things they want to do with this space besides just having the Commander Stadium there and the kind of non-sports stuff. Do we know at this point what other teams may want to get involved? What other sports facilities, professional sports facilities, could go here? Or do we think that it's going to be limited to the Commanders? It is going to be them, stadium only, no practice facility, no nothing else. And then ultimately the rest of the development goes to the mixed use or the other mix of uses that Mayor Bowser and the council want to see out of this.
So I was just looking through the term sheet because in there it does say with the potential for a women's soccer team. It doesn't say the Spirit by name, but like you said, the Spirit logo is on there. I think the Spirit moving there for a practice facility or something or games, like that's definitely on the table. And
because I think they would love, even if it's just a practice facility, right? They're playing at Audi. Their players have to drive in an hour to games compared to they're in Ashburn. And like, it would not. Michelle Kang is a smart businesswoman, the owner of the Spirit. If you want to know more about that, go look at how she became the majority owner of that team. She basically pulled a coup, which was badass. But like bringing in Magic as someone, not as just as a big name and someone with some serious cash, but someone who is also a part owner of the biggest team in town, is in the middle of stadium negotiations. That to me felt like a shrewd move at the time. That is a compliment, and I would not be surprised to see them. And I'm also curious if there's anybody else who gets involved.
I think that they're definitely open to having more sports teams involved. But right now, Josh Harris said that he doesn't anticipate moving the team's practice facility from Ashburn. He said that they like it out there. And he said there's no plans to move the team's corporate headquarters from College Park. That could change. I know that, Tom Sherwood, who you brought up, has been, critical of teams that, corporations that quote unquote play in the district, but they have their corporate headquarters where it's more tax advantageous in Virginia or Maryland. But Josh said basically that they like having touch points in all three jurisdictions: Stadium, DC, corporate headquarters, Maryland, practice facility, Virginia. It seems to me like the practice facility will stay in Ashburn, at least for the foreseeable future, which is surprising to me because that land is so valuable for data centers. I thought they were going to cash out, but it does not appear to be that way.
Well, they've set up the paperwork if they want to change their mind.
They have, yes,
and
totally.
That is something that's in the last year and a half that they got the right licenses or whatever to make sure that they can build the data centers out there in Ashburn where that land is stupid valuable.
Right. And so to me, like, there's a lot of questions I think that we're going to have going forward. I think they want to figure out, okay, let's get this thing passed. Let's figure out where we're going to be. And then, okay, maybe we do something like the Star. But I mean, the Star in Frisco, Texas, they have a lot more land around there than DC does. So it would be, I think, more logistically difficult.
It would move them out of Virginia. But in a lot of ways, I think the smartest place to put the new practice facility would be in Landover.
Yeah.
Like, PG County is the wealthiest black county in America per capita. And so if you all of a sudden say, all right, hey, we're trying to recruit players and like you can live amongst your peers in a majority black league out there in PG County, they have 200 acres. Certainly Maryland they want to use that land for what's best for the community, but also if they can welcome or keep the Commanders in a pretty large presence, it's also, again, a lot closer to the city.
They still own that land, so it would just be repurposing things that they already own.
Right. They don't have to do any kind of purchase, so they could sell Ashburn, make a ton of cash, reinvest that cash in. And the thing is, on the Ashburn site, as you well know, as someone who still has to go there on a more regular basis than I do, that place, they don't have the room to expand. Like, they've already knocked down almost all the walls inside that they can. There's not really room because of the way like the hills are shaped for extensions on that. They'd run out of either parking or practice space. So if they want to have a modern NFL practice facility, they need to build a new one. And to me, it would make sense to say, hey, giant tech companies that are flush with cash and running out of space in Ashburn, who's the highest bidder? Okay, you own this now. We're going to Landover. And so I don't know what that means for their relationship with Virginia, because like you said, or like you referenced, Josh said they like having it in all three, but that would not surprise me long-term if that was a play.
No, it makes a lot of business sense for some good business people. And I would say the other concern or question that I have about how the team approaches this, if they do ultimately get approval, is tailgating. I know that's been a thing that people have been really concerned about. They have 22,000 parking spaces at Northwest Stadium. They're going to go down to approximately 8 in DC. And as you pointed out, like, they say that they'll start with a little surface parking, but it'll all eventually be in structures. I asked a Commanders official, hey, how is this going to work? Like, will you be able to tailgate if you're there? And this person basically said, look, like, we will figure out how to make it a tailgating experience in a parking structure. I don't know. They did not have details on what that would look like. But if that doesn't work out, they can go to the area, the stadium district we're going to develop right in front of the area, and they can tailgate there, which obviously would be in team-developed, team-leased places. So what does tailgating look like? How do people get to the park, especially if there's only going to be 8,000 parking spaces? You're going to have to rely on Metro, ride share, bikes. things like that. But it's I think the logistics of this site, it's a totally fair and open question because that's the inherent cost of centrality and getting the emotional spot that appeals to people.
I mean, this is anything in a city. Like if you want space, you got to go out to the suburbs. If you want centrality, you want convenience, like you're going to have to deal with some other stuff. It's why, living in the city and paying for parking every month in my own residence, like it's not great. Like it just is a part of it though. If you want to have that convenience, you're going to have to pay for it. And so I get it. And there's some people that care a lot about the tailgating, but at some point you have to make choices. And I think that's really a good place to end is like over the next 3 months, a lot of people are going to have to make choices. And for city council members, it's going to be, do you want the stadium here or not? And I think ultimately that is the leverage that the Commanders have. Of course, the city council members have their vote as their leverage on the other side. Anything else you want to add on the tail end here to wrap up?
One thing I've heard a lot from fans that I want to add is about personal seat licenses, PSLs, which are going to make tickets more expensive. I think Buffalo is actually, again, a great example of this because in Buffalo, they're building a similar size structure, and they just introduced PSLs for the first time. About 20 of the 32 teams have them. Josh Harris said PSLs are just a part of building a new stadium in the NFL because it's a big upfront infusion of cash. And the way PSLs work, it's like buying a ticket to get into a store to then buy something. You're going to have to pay for the right to buy your seat if you're a season ticket holder. And for the lower, end tickets for the common fan, in Buffalo, you buy a 30-year PSL, and it's between $2,500 and $8,000. If you want to
per
more,
year.
no, it's you buy it for 30 years. So you have a 30-year PSL, $2,500 to $8,000, and if you want a premium seat or a club seat, it's between $15K and $50K.
Wow. Okay.
But if you're a fan who sits in the nosebleeds, but you love your seat and you've always had it, if you pay in that range, you will have the right to buy your season tickets for the next X amount of years. We don't know what the Commanders' cost will be. We don't know what the Commanders' terms will be in terms of the length of the deal. But that is something that I've heard from fans because it's like, hey, like I've loved this team. I've been through the thick and thin. Can I now transfer my seats to the new stadium because like I was here when y'all were down and now y'all are up and I want to still be there.
Right.
So I think that's a question that I have, and I asked Josh Harris about the affordability, and he was like, look, I totally understand PSLs are a big thing people talk about. We will have an affordable game day experience, even in the context of PSLs. And to me, the question is, okay, what are the ticket prices going to be? What are the concessions going to be? Atlanta, I think, has been a leader in the NFL in making concessions affordable. Obviously, this stadium is such a big opportunity for the team and to make money and to get their return on investment. But will they keep fans along for the ride, especially the fans that were there when they were down? Legacy fans that have had tickets since Griffith Stadium, a lot of, some people definitely have been there that long. That's what I'm going to be watching going forward is does he follow through and put his money where his mouth is?
So far, so good. And basically everything Josh Harris has done for the Commanders. This is going to be a big test, though. Sam Fortier will be covering it in the Washington Post. If you read it, you get his T-shirt. It's not true.
Thanks for having me, Craig.
All right, that was Fortier with us, who's wearing a Washington Post T-shirt, which is why I said that there at the end. Again, if you want the full uninterrupted conversation, we'll put it up in our podcast feed and on YouTube at Craig Hoffman at the Team 980. Speaking of which, never read the comments on both the RFK situation and what the Commanders did in the draft. Next, here on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. That is where you leave your comments for us, also at Craig Hoffman. And then on Thursdays at 5:30-ish, we do this.
We tried to warn them. They didn't listen. Yeah! Every week, the Hoffman Show goes into the belly of the beast.
We read those comments, baby.
Never read the comments.
All right, so the show is 3 hours long pretty much every day. It gets chopped up into pieces. We put that at Craig Hoffman at the Team 980, and then we let you have at it. We also read the comments on Take Command, and a lot of the comments when we get to the draft section will be from that. But Anthony, here on the show this week, we've obviously spent a good amount of time talking about the Commanders' attempts to return to D.C., to come home, if you will, to RFK Stadium. And believe it or not, people have opinions on that.
Really?
Yeah, no way.
Exactly.
Day 1973, DAE 1973, said, was commenting on our chat with Tom Sherwood, who, Tom is, of course, the WAMU political director, and he expressed in our interview that he hopes that the Commanders aren't a team that, quote unquote, plays in D.C. and only plays in D.C. He wants them to be in D.C., not just the stadium, but move your team headquarters here, and that way the corporate taxes you pay as an entity go to the District of Columbia city government. And DAE 1973 says, I agree to move the business unit of the Commanders to D.C., but the practice facility should stay in Northern Virginia. I don't believe that there's enough space to house the team practice facility at RFK. I actually agree with that. Well, I agree with half of that, I should say. I think the best course of action for the Commanders is to, I'm sorry to anybody listening in Virginia, and I'm sorry to the Commonwealth, a state that I lived in and quite enjoyed my time in. This isn't personal. It's just absolutely logistical. I think the best bet for the Commanders is to abandon, from a space standpoint, is to abandon Virginia. And they would sell their land that they currently have because it is crazy valuable to tech companies. There's a limited amount of space in Loudoun County that has the fiber wire in it that can house the types of data centers that these giant tech companies need. Their space is ready for that. They have the licensing that they got last year, and so eventually it would make sense to sell. The other reason it makes sense to sell is not just because they can make a profit, but because they kind of need a new practice facility. They don't really have space to expand the current one. They're maxed out unless they were to knock down a bunch of trees, which I don't even know if they have the right to do, because I don't know where their land ends, like where those trees are. I don't know if they own all those trees or whether they would have to buy that land too. So actually, I don't even know if they have a room to expand. But I certainly know there's no more room in the current space for more practice fields. If they want to expand the building, they cut the parking, and they already don't have enough parking. And if you look at teams that have built modern practice facilities, they have all these really cool, innovative spaces that are like quasi-classroom part field, where they can do giant projection work, and they can do all kinds of cool stuff. And they have bigger weight rooms, and the Commanders don't have room for that. So they need a different space to house a world-class practice facility. And they own 200 acres in Maryland in Landover. And so 180 plus acres of that, let's give that to the city of Landover. Not give it to, but let's help the city of Landover, PG County, the state of Maryland develop that. Anthony, it just makes too much sense to move the practice facility to Maryland. Plus, Landover's way closer to RFK than Ashburn is. So from a player standpoint, it's an easier commute on game day. And last but not least, PG County's one of, if not the richest per capita black county in America. And if you're trying to recruit mostly black players, and that's just a percent of what the league is, to say, hey, you can come live amongst people who actually financially, culturally, socially are your peers, that seems like an appealing thing to do as opposed to being out in Ashburn where, let's just say that's not quite the case. Not that Loudoun County doesn't have decent diversity to it, but it is a different vibe in Loudoun County and Ashburn. So it just, to me, it makes all the sense in the world. And then as much of your business that you can center at the stadium, great because I do think that it's right that if you're going to play in DC and you're going to ask for $1 billion to help support the funding of the stadium, even if you're putting in close to $3 billion of your own, of course you want to pay your corporate taxes in DC in terms of being a good citizen. But I think logistically to move the entire operation there is just, you're now taking up way too much space in a city where there just isn't a lot of space.
Yeah, Landover wouldn't be too bad. Literally, it's right down the street. You take Central Ave, you hit RFK.
Right.
Also, it's sort of kind of like on the border. And then also, when I think about Kevin Durant's documentary, Something in the Water, like he talks about how there were a lot of, African Americans in the D.C. area, and guess where they end up getting pushed out to? PG County. So I think the points you made are like super valid.
Yeah, so it's logistically, there are things that are really important from a baseline level because you can't proceed without them, aka the space. And again, they don't have to buy any. They're spending so much money. Not that I'm feeling bad for any of these incredibly rich people who can get bonds and do all these, play all these financial tricks to have this not be crazy. But like, let's not pretend like we're spending billions of dollars for a stadium that we're all going to go to and enjoy lightly, or a practice facility, whatever. But why would you have to buy land if you already own 200 acres? Build the new facility there and make some of it and be able to pay for it with, sell your current house to buy your new one. That's the best way to go about that business, it would seem to me, especially if you already own the land. All right, next up in the comments section, talk about affordability. Our guy Blaine Bowling 3303 says, man, with the cost of living going through the roof as we speak, I don't know how we're going to be able to afford seats and how affordable seats will be attainable. He's talking about our conversation with Fortier that everyone just heard and the end of that with the PSLs. And this is where I struggle because I think PSLs are mostly a scam for owners to get more money out of fans, but people buy them. That's capitalism. And the reason you do PSLs is because it's almost like a signing bonus for the owner, right? And players like signing bonuses because they get cash right now. For a team or an ownership group that's spending billions and billions of dollars, if they then sell a bunch of PSLs, they can make an influx of cash by getting that PSL money up front, or at least some of it. Some of these come with payment plans. There's a bunch of different ways you can do it, but I understand why teams do them. And the simple answer is capitalism, because they can and people will buy them. And I do hope that Josh Harris keeps his promise that he's going to do his very best to make it as affordable as possible for people, that those PSLs don't become the thing that cause people to give up their tickets that they've been holding on for for a very long time.
Nah, definitely. Especially the conversation you and Sam were just having, like, it's been my entire lifetime, like 30 years, man, since we've been like in a situation where we are. So definitely just being able to like be loyal to the guys that were loyal to you would make all the sense.
And it's not Josh Harris's fault that the current economic situation is what it is. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of factors. It's not me like trying to be shady towards any particular politician or thing or what, like there's a lot of stuff in the global economy that is happening that is causing our current cost of living situation and prices to be where they are and housing to be where it is and all that kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, like, this is capitalism, though. It's the market. And so if, despite all that stuff, people are still willing to pay, then people are going to get priced out. And if enough people just say, no, I'm not buying that, or I can't afford that, then they're going to have to bring prices down to what people afford. And as an individual consumer, you have to take the risk of, if I don't buy it, is someone else going to? Or is everyone else going to be in the same boat I am, and thus the prices will come down to me? Markets, capitalism, economics, sports radio, woohoo! But that's all it is. Last one on this from Aid Smith, RB7CE. Anybody opposing this plan? Do they have a better plan themselves? The site needs to be developed, and it has been an eyesore for 30 years, so shame on them if they don't support it. This is not exactly correct. I mean, obviously, it has been an eyesore for 30 years, and they do need to develop it. But we have proven over time as a society that you do not need a stadium to anchor a neighborhood. pick any neighborhood in D.C. that's not Navy Yard. There's no stadium there. Or the 14th and U, or Shaw neighborhoods, or Georgetown, or the Wharf, which is one of the best recent examples of how you can build something new and not have a stadium anchor. Like, pick any DC neighborhood that is not the one right around Capital One Arena and Navy Yard, or pick any neighborhood in the country that is that in a major city, or pick any suburban neighborhood. Like, you don't need a stadium to anchor a neighborhood, to have it be economically viable, to have people live there, to have people shop there, to have people generate tax revenue there. That said, you have to make a different calculation in DC, because if you don't put the stadium there, it's not going in DC. It's going in Maryland. And what is the opportunity cost? That's something that economists would look at and have to tell me. But a lot of them still think it's better off. You're better off economically doing something else. It's just then, like, what do you actually want out of the stadium? And then what do you actually want in terms of your city? Do you want the city to have the stadium or not? And what else can you do around it to try to ease some of the pain in terms of housing and the budget in DC, which certainly needs the money. And then we end on economics again, Anthony.
Gotta love some good econ, man.
Gotta love it. All right, what about some draft talk? Let's get into some draft talk here on Never Read the Comments. Jeff Richardson, 27-28. I really like the athletes they drafted, they, of course, being the Commanders. But an edge rusher would have made the team more complete for a Super Bowl, or more complete to compete for a Super Bowl now. Improving the offensive line is never a bad idea, especially with a guy like number 5 behind center and the defensive fronts in our division. But I thought the LT trade was enough of an offensive line improvement to look elsewhere in the first round. AP is a hell of a lot smarter than me, though. Ian Rocks 44 says, there are 2 ways to improve your pass rush. Yes, you get better pass rushers. That's awesome if you can. But you can also improve your coverage, which they did in a serious way. Fans get so hung up on a specific position of a personal player favorite, but have no idea how to truly build a roster. They knew they needed to protect the best player on the team, and they did it. By the time they picked at 61, Trey Amos at cornerback was better than any edge they take. So you take Amos. It's not really that hard to understand, but they will keep beating the same whiny drum. I thought they showed the trust their board strategy and their talent as evaluators. Also, not sure why people are saying Connerly is not ready to play right now. I like what this team has done, and I do not think they are done either. One more before I chime in from Anthony. Anthony Etheridge, not Anthony Haney. Anthony Etheridge, 415. I really wish my fellow fans would stop being so short-sighted. Yes, you draft players in the early rounds that you feel can contribute immediately, but you don't reach on players because you have a need for this season. That's how you end up drafting Jamin Davis and Jahan Dotson. Let Adam cook. He's earned that much. I think these 3 comments go well together because, to Jeff's point, it would have been nice if they got an edge rusher because clearly a premier edge rusher is something they need. But, like Ian says, they've done other stuff to help the pass rush. And he says, as Anthony Etheridge says, they trust their board. I can't stress this enough. They are just flabbergasted, seemingly, that they got Josh Connerly. They had a significantly higher grade on him than anyone else that they could have taken at 29. And then one of the players that they would have taken if Connerly wasn't available to them, that was kind of in that next bucket of players, was apparently Trey Amos, who they got at 61. And sometimes I think we overthink this stuff, or we think they think through this stuff in a way that's very different than the reality goes, Anthony. I think people get way too caught up in mock drafts, and it actually is one of my least favorite types of comments in the lead up to the draft. You got to go edge. No, you don't. No, you don't. Nobody goes into the draft unless they have a top, 1, 2, 3 pick. And last year, the Cardinals could do it at 4 because they were fairly confident that the first 3 picks were going to be the 3 quarterbacks. But if you have 1, 2, nevertheless 28 picks ahead of you, you don't go in, good teams don't go in targeting a position. It's stupid. It's a way to draft a player in a spot that player has no business drafting. You have to just say, who are the people that can help us? And one, it's because that's how you get the best players on your team, and ultimately your team needs good blue chip level players to succeed at the highest level. And 2, The draft isn't for one season. And so if you just take the best player available year over year over year, chances are the best player is not going to be at the same position unless it's the 4 years in a row that the Commanders took D linemen or the 4 years in a row the Detroit Lions took wide receivers back in the day. But chances are that target is going to bop around, and then all of a sudden you got a bunch of first-round picks on your team at a bunch of different positions, all on different timelines contractually, and you can keep a bunch of them, and then you look up in 6 years and you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you're holding a Lombardi trophy. That's how it's done. You invest in the lines for sure, but you take good players. And if you don't get that, man, I got nothing for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that also just goes back to, like, even when we were doing our mock drafts and you took Emeka Egbuka, like, on a lot of people's boards, like, I guess, like, fans anyway of the team, we just wanted to go edge. Like, Lynell and I, we went edge. We were thinking need, like, we need to get our room better. But I think, to your point, like, you were really thinking, like, who's the best player available? How can they also be of assistance? And edge wasn't the only position of need that we needed or that we had anyway.
Yeah, no, for sure. Never read the comments. A couple more here as we wrap up. I'm going to guess this is Mr. T HUD 03 as opposed to Mr. Thud 03.
Yeah, T HUD.
T HUD, salute. I think we're getting caught up on having an edge rusher. Luvu was second team All-Pro. Dante Fowler had double-digit sacks, although I don't think that's correct. I think Wagner was second team All-Pro. Frankie was not. But he was in part second team All-Pro because of some of the blitzing work that he did. Dante Fowler had double-digit sacks, but we couldn't set an edge to save our lives. And teams were just running right up the middle on us. I think the combination of an improved run defense up front and a better secondary will help getting home to the QB. AP has dynamically shifted this roster in just 2 years. Amazing. And that last point is what I think is really important. This was always a multi-year project. That doesn't change because you do really well in year one. Maybe you're farther along than you thought. But especially when it comes to getting blue chip players, it takes time. And they did themselves a disservice, air quotes, by making the NFC Championship game because it put them at 29th in the draft. And they're hoping they just got a blue chip offensive tackle and that guys like Mike Tice, former NFL head coach and offensive line coach before that, who had Josh Connerly as the number one offensive lineman in this class, are correct. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we got Jaden in year one, blue chipper. Connerly in year two, blue chipper. See who they get next year. And that takes time because those players are so rare and so few and so far between. I also do think that by being better in the run game, which guys like Dietrich Wise will help with, guys like Eddie Goldman will help with, I think Javon Kinlaw, if deployed properly, could help with. Johnny Newton in year two should be better. If they have more discipline and are better edge setters in the run game, you wind up with more third and longs, and that's going to help your pass rush too. All right, a little bit of fun at the end here.
Quick correction, though. Luvu was second team All-Pro. He just didn't get the Pro Bowl nod.
They were both second team All-Pro?
Yeah.
Dang.
Both of them, Austin Eckler and Terry McLaurin.
I bet. My apologies to Frankie Luvu. Your next beer that you chug at a hockey game is on me.
I think he loved that.
Yeah, based on how much he loved the one he chugged last night, I'd imagine so.
Yeah.
That dude is electric. All right, last but not least, our fun at the end. We were talking with Fortier about and Sherwood about how the legislative sausage is made, and Jeff Richardson goes, "Legislative sausage, new band name, called dibs on it."
Wow.
Someone's fantasy football team is going to be called Legislative Sausage this year in DC.
I think I might be the third person to do it.
I think it might just be Anthony Haney. And then last but not least, writing the axe. Wow, Craig blocked our team account. Not a nice guy. 235 puts a timestamp in there for some reason. Had to sign into our personal account to make a comment. Anyway, a few of their UDFAs will make the team, in my opinion. It was so important that he switched accounts. But also, here's my question. If you made it this far, I need you to leave a comment on this video. Or if you're listening to us live, like DM me, email me, something. Should I block this account? Because they've already earned one block. I don't just block people willy-nilly. I block people if you're not worth listening to or if you say something offensive. And so if they've already admitted that they've been blocked once on some other account, should I just automatically block this one? Or should I give them a second chance, even though I'm apparently not a nice guy?
I think you should give him another chance.
Okay.
I'm a nice person though.
Let's see what the public thinks. Do I block this person again? I feel like if I put this out there now in this forum, people will be nice. If I put a poll up on like Instagram or something, people would just bludgeon them because that's what the internet is. It's not safe out here in these internet streets, Anthony.
No, don't put them up there.
No, I'm not going to do that. Not going to do that. All right. That is Never Read the Comments. When we get back, we can talk a little bit more about some NBA stuff and why my least favorite basketball player keeps reminding us that he's my least favorite basketball player. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980. Last night, the Golden State Warriors, they didn't make it till I turned on my television before they were getting their asses kicked by the Houston Rockets. The 2-7 matchup. Houston at home for Game 5. They stave off elimination. The Warriors have done this before, by the way, Anthony, where they have been up in a series. They did this at Memphis a couple years ago where they got absolutely blasted in a game, and then they came back and just won the next one. It's like, okay, cool. That was fun. We just close it out at home. And so I'm not worried. But there is consternation. Or I'm not worried if I'm the Warriors. There is consternation, though, about Steph Curry's thumb. And it got hit multiple times last night, and Steve Kerr had something to say about it after. And he said, basically, we have 30 coaches in the league who think it's incredibly stupid the way the rule is currently written, where if you hit someone's hand on a closeout, there are circumstances where it's not a foul. And Dylan Brooks was asked about the fact after the game that he might be intentionally hitting Steph Curry's injured thumb. And he didn't deny it. In fact, he said, one of the dumbest things I've ever heard an athlete hear because Dylan Brooks can't help himself. Sorry. Did I get angry too early, Anthony?
Nah, I think it was just the right amount.
Dylan Brooks said, if I had an injured or if I was playing someone with an injured ankle, if I had an injured ankle, I'd go after that ankle all night long. I'd attack that ankle, was the quote. If you have an injured ankle and your movement skills are limited, it is 1,000% fair game to attack that. To say, hey, you're limited. We're gonna make you do the thing that is hard. And if you're not up to it, then you have to sub out. Going up to that ankle and kicking the ever-living S out of it repeatedly would not be fair game. Stepping on it would be dirty. To be like, oopsies, I stepped on your bad ankle. That's Bush League. That's chicken bleep. That is unbecoming of a professional. It is unbecoming of a competitor. And that's exactly what Dylan Brooks admitted to doing in his own analogy. Is that not, hey, I'm going to see if you can shoot it. Not, hey, I'm going to try to contest your catches. I'm going to contest your shots. You know, hey, if we happen to make contact, so be it. No, he's attacking and trying to hurt Steph Curry. And this upsets me not only, like, I'm not going to pretend like it doesn't upset me that he's out there trying to hurt people, because that is, like, these are human beings at the end of the day. And there's a respect that you have as competitors when you play a sport, that you are not going to try to hurt the other person. In hockey, where they fight each other, there is conduct. In boxing, there is conduct. In football, yeah, there are times you're trying to crush guys and knock guys, and it's kind of accepted as part of the sport. Hey, you might get knocked out. But if you do it in a way that's dirty after the whistle, that's no good. that you're on the hook for. And in basketball, the written and unwritten rules do not allow for you to hurt people. And I think, so yes, on a human level, it is, I would say, upsetting. But what like really actually grinds my gears, Anthony, beyond that, is what it means to compete is my best versus your best. Let's see who wins. That is the true definition of competition. This is outlined, like I would say in books, and I'm making this overly academic, but like if I say, hey, we're gonna go out in the hallway and we're gonna race, tale as old as time, right? Just like we're kids. I'm gonna race you. We're gonna move all the chairs, and there's 2 lanes out here on either side of this desk, and I'm gonna race you from here to the end. And I say, ready, set, go. And then I just don't run. What are you going to do?
I'm a run, but also question why you aren't running.
Right. And if you win, are you going to be like, oh, I beat you? And you can be like, no, it was weird. He didn't run.
Yeah.
Like you might even stop and be like, no, come on. Like I want to race.
Yeah.
You're not just going to take the win because that's not what competition is about.
Not at all.
The best wins of your life are the ones that you had to earn, that you had to work hardest for, that you had to. There's a reason we love the underdog in sports because they're not supposed to win. They overcome the odds. Breaking the opponent's thumb is the antithesis of that. Yeah, I won. Yeah, because you hurt him. If you are an actual competitor, then you don't try to hurt your opponent. You try to beat them. And you get more glory. You would rather lose in glory and say, I lost, I gave it my best, his best was better than mine, than win by a way that's cheap. And if you're the other way, if that's not who you are, and you're like, I'll just take the win, then I don't ever want to play any competitive anything with you in my life. Because you're not even worth beating. Like you're just not worth my time. And to me, that's who Dillon Brooks is. It's who he's been his entire career. He's a guy who wants to be better at basketball than he is. And he wants to be able to say he's better at basketball than he is, which is a shame because he's a good player. That's the thing. Dillon Brooks doesn't suck at NBA basketball. He's okay. He has nights where he's not very good. He has nights where he's really good. He's not a bad defender. He's not an elite defender. He's a very solid defender with some offensive game. But he wishes that he was better than he is. And in order to try to make himself, to live that lie, he tries to cut down his opponents literally. He resorts to non-competitive things to try to get in their heads. Does stuff after the whistle that is illegal and out of bounds. And the fact that he just flat out admitted it, and he doesn't seem to understand the difference between attacking someone's injury within the context of the game and trying to cause more injury, to me is like, I know it's not actually suspension worthy and that you can't suspend him for this, but if this was not the NBA and this was Craig's basketball league, I would suspend Dillon Brooks for that because it's so fundamentally insulting to what I want the sport to be that I would be ready to throw him out of the league because you just don't get the proverbial it.
Yeah, it gives that he's trying to sort of kind of take the coward's way out, and like that's what it screams. And I'm not sure if he's trying to take on the bad boys Pistons, behavior from the 80s and, the 90s. I think he's low-key taking it a step further, kind of.
I mean, no, it's what those guys tried to do.
Okay.
And it was more within the rules back then, which is why they invented some of the flagrant rules and things like that. Because, it was like, hey, we can't beat you playing. I mean, look, that is what those Pistons teams were. They were really, really good, to be clear. Way better at basketball than Dillon Brooks is. But when it came to Michael, when it came to the Bulls, they could not beat him playing basketball. And so they did other stuff. And the league let them get away with it enough, and it was within the rules enough at the time that it worked, and they got 2 championships out of it, and credit to them. They, it is within the rules enough that they got away with it. But they changed the rules, and Michael also figured it out, and that was the end of that. And Dylan Brooks has no shot at defeating Stephen Curry if Steph is at his best. And it's one thing to talk mess and try to get in his head or, defend him really hard or, I'm even okay with the occasional like message send screen or I'm going to run through a screen. I'm telling you right now, bro, if I was, I'm trying to think of who the right person, maybe it's like Moses Moody.
No, you need Moody.
You don't want someone who's going to get thrown. You don't want to get thrown out. But like in the 2008 Olympics, Kobe Bryant wanted to send a message early that like, yeah, Pau Gasol is now my teammate in LA, but like we're here to go against Spain in the final. And that he knew the first play that Spain was going to run would have Pau setting a screen. And he ran like in a way that was like actually a dirty play. Kobe ran through Pau's chest. And it was like, oh, hell, whoa. Everybody was like, oh, that's what we're doing? Like, this is going to be a war. And it was. That 2008 final is one of the best Olympic basketball games ever. And again, like, I actually thought Kobe did it at a level that was dirty. It was so intentional. But if I'm the Warriors, I'm probably running through Dylan Brooks' chest because he's asking for it. And at that point, if you've engaged in that stuff, like, okay, if those are your rules of engagement, we'll engage. So, I'm like, who's big, strong, fast, and can maybe it's Quentin Post, maybe Moses Moody, because I feel like Moses Moody's the Warrior who would be bested as a football player. He's big, he's strong, he's fast.
Maybe you do use Moses.
If he picks up a technical, whatever.
Oh no.
Just don't do anything extra.
Yeah.
Stupid. Make sure you hit him in the chest, not the face. We can take a flagrant one. Don't get a flagrant two. But yeah, it's so despicable to me. Like, it really bothers me to my core. Like, I need to stop talking about it. Otherwise, I'm going to just be upset for the rest of the night. When we get back, actually, I have no idea what we're doing when we get back. Here's what I do know. It's 6:30. Esme Morgan from the Washington Spirit is going to join us. And one, she is a delightful person. Two, she is an enormous Jacksonville Jaguars fan. She's British, and she loves the Jags. So we're going to get Esme Morgan's take on the Jacksonville Jaguars trading for Travis Hunter. She also went to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. How did that happen? We'll ask her about that. And we'll also talk about her team, the Spirit, who are looking to get back on track Friday night against Angel City, one of the top teams in the NWSL so far this season, and looking forward to another sellout under the lights at Audi Field on Friday. So Esme coming up at 6:30 here on the team. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We're streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. Just a few minutes ago, Mayor Bowser actually called in across the hall to Grant and Danny. They were talking about some of the RFK stuff. And Grant ran something that Charles Allen said by her. Charles Allen is a city council member who currently is a no on RFK for the Commanders. And part of his explanation is that it's a bad deal for the city, specifically on the parking. He's like, the city is going to build it, and then the Commanders are going to keep the revenue from the parking. That's a bad deal for the city. They played that bite for Mayor Bowser, and then she responded by saying this.
That he doesn't understand complicated municipal finance and infrastructure finance. That's all that says to me. What it says is that that revenue wouldn't exist but for the stadium. And so we use revenue that wouldn't exist but for projects all the time to finance those projects. It's a very common tool. And so what else would he have us do than use the money generated on the project to make the project financially feasible?
On a baseline level, I actually understand what Bowser's saying, but let's not pretend like there aren't other options there. So could you use the stadium? And this is part of the reason that stadiums are not good investments for cities, is when you build something like a grocery store or housing or office space, the taxes ultimately go back into the coffers of the city that help you build things like schools or pay teachers or whatever. And so to pretend like there isn't an alternate path here that, okay, especially once you are done building the stadium, and maybe the first 5 years, the taxes or the revenue from the parking goes to repay Events DC, who built the parking structures. And maybe there's a certain amount that goes back to the Commanders because they are putting so much money in, and but ultimately, like, they're buying something. When you buy something, you expect to get the thing. You don't expect always to get your money back. There are certain things that are investments. There are certain things that are purchases. And on some level, this stadium is going to be a purchase for Josh Harris and company. And then the rest of it is an investment, if you will. But to pretend like you can't say, hey, this parking structure is going to be great because it's going to help us eventually build a new school, like, to pretend like that's not an option also seems silly to me. Maybe Mayor Bowser would look at me and just say, you also don't understand municipal finance. But this is the fight, right? This is emblematic of what's going to happen over the next 3 months, is fights exactly like that, of Mayor Bowser saying, this is how it's done, and city council members saying, hey, yeah, that's why most economists think these stadiums are terrible deals for the city. Can we find a way to do it that's actually a good deal for the city? And I don't know the right answer to that because I'm not an economist, and I also don't have the exact details of what I don't have the surface level details of how that all would come together. But I think it is really emblematic of the kind of discussions that are going to be happening, and it's really good to both hear Mayor Bowser make a lot of sense on one hand, but also say, well, hey, here is the counter argument on the other. When we get back, you will hear from Washington Spirit defender Esme Morgan. She's got hot takes on the Jags trade for Travis Hunter because she is a big Jags fan. And you also hear her talk about her team that looks to bounce back from their worst loss of the season so far tomorrow night at Audi Field. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. Tomorrow night at Audi Field, the Washington Spirit will take on Angel City, trying to bounce back after a disappointing loss against Gotham over the weekend. And big part of that will be Esme Morgan, their star defender, English international. Had a chance to catch up with Ez yesterday, and then after we caught up, we also discovered there was something else we should have talked about. That is going to be featured in Real Things Real People Said in Real Microphones. Just a very funny story is awaiting. But before that, here is my chat with Esme. Joined by Esme Morgan, Washington Spirit defender, lady about town this week in DC, and Super Jacksonville. So, Ez, we're going to talk about the Spirit. We're going to talk about your trip to the correspondence dinner, and we're going to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars trading for Travis Hunter. What do you want to start with?
Oh gosh, I don't know. you kick me off. I'll just talk.
All right, let's go. For anyone who's watching this as a usual watcher or listener to our radio show, which is a ton of NFL talk, there's always this thought in the NFL, like, oh, if we have a team that plays in London regularly, people will become a fan of the team, and it worked on you. Esme is the British-based Jacksonville Jaguars fan who's now made her way to DC. So you are all in on this team. What's your take on the Hunter?
Well, I'll just say I'm not a Jags fan because they play often in London. I am a Jags fan purely because teal is my favourite colour. So when I started watching the NFL, that's who I chose.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, but I was excited when we traded up. I was watching the draft coverage live on TV, and then it said like trade alert and that the Jags were going up to second, and I was screaming, oh my God, we're going to get Travis Hunter. And he lives 3 floors above me at the apartments, and I think we both had like balcony doors open because she messaged me. She was like, what is all that shouting about down there? So obviously she could hear me from 3 floors up yelling because we were getting Travis Hunter. But no, I'm very, very excited. It's very rare for people to play 2 positions so brilliantly. So, I mean, the Jags need the help. So I'm very excited about it.
Do you have strong feelings of whether you want to see him on offense or defense?
Well, I watched like their post-draft conference, and they said he's primarily going to be at receiver, which is exciting because I watch Red Zone. So for the most part, hopefully I'll get to see him.
So there's not like the ender. You're like, no. You gotta play on the good side of the ball.
Offense is much more exciting in the NFL, isn't it?
Fair enough. You also were at the White House Correspondents' Dinner this past weekend in DC. How did that come about, and how did you enjoy yourself?
Well, I was invited by Bloomberg, which was just an absolute honor. I was aware of what a prestigious event it was and everything, so it was just such a surreal experience, just being surrounded by so many inspirational, incredible people, such interesting stories to share. Like I was sat at a table with the Canadian ambassador to the US, Bloomberg's deputy editor-in-chief, and they were just wonderful, lovely people who were so passionate about what they did, and it was just so interesting to get to chat to them and ask questions and hear their stories, and sort of be inspired by the stories of the journalists who work every day to let everyone know what's going on in the world. So it was such an honor to be invited, and I really, really enjoyed it. I took my little brother as a plus one because he's visiting at the minute, and he kept coming over to me. I've been chatting to someone and being like, Ez, what am I doing here? I was like, I know, Lucas, I feel the same, but felt so lucky, and it was so much fun and made some great friends whilst I was there.
That's great. Esme Morgan is with us, Washington Spirit defender on the Hoffman Show. So, like, how did you get connected with Bloomberg? Like, what's the backstory there? Or you're like, I don't know, something showed up and it was real. The next thing I know, I'm at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Literally, Sam, our head of the Spirit, just sort of forwarded me an email from Bloomberg saying we'd love to invite Esme Morgan to the White House Correspondents' Dinner as our guest, and I sort of responded saying, Sam, please can you find out why on earth they want me there? Because I didn't really understand why like no one else in the team was going or anything like that. But the lady called Jess, who works for Bloomberg and is head of their, was I think responsible for inviting me, and she's British and a big Lionesses fan, so that sort of explained it. And we're besties now, Jess. We get along so well. She's absolutely hilarious and just brilliant at what she does. So I was so grateful that she thought of me for that opportunity. Now I've got a good friendship out of it.
That's lovely. That's such a great story. All right, to the soccer. Spirit hosting Angel City on Friday night, first Friday night football game of the year at Audi Field. I wanted to talk to you about your new backline mate, Rebecca Bernal, because she has been unbelievable this year. I'm sure you were familiar on some level with her game, but we were talking last weekend of, is she a candidate for Defender of the Year? I was like, why are you guys selling her short? Like, she's got to be on the MVP list the way that she has played so far this year. When you first got to start playing with Rebecca and then as she got on the field, what makes her so special as someone who is playing right next to her week in, week out?
I think the biggest thing is that you can tell she just loves defending. Like, long ball into the air, she's charging to go and win it, and she's so strong in those aerial duels. And then she's really tenacious on the ground duels as well, always going in with firm tackles and in for blocks in the area. And that's what I took. I was just like, wow, she's a brilliant defender. Obviously, I knew that she'd come as captain from the Mexican team, captain from her previous team too. So I knew that she'd be a great leader. And although she's not fluent in English, her English is very, very good, and maybe just waiting to bed into the team, you can still see that she's got those leadership qualities and is incredibly passionate, encouraging, speaks up if she sees something within a game that needs to be better. So I've really enjoyed playing with Rebe so far, and can learn from her game in particular.
I mean, what are those defensive meetings like these days? You have you, who's on the English national team, Rebecca, who's the Mexican national team, and now Tara's become a regular with the U.S. women's national team. So you're talking about world-class defenders across that back line. Not to mention that's before the outside backs and Gabby and Casey and McKenna's in the U.S. Side now on the U23 level. So, I mean, just studs back there. So what are defensive meetings like and the conversations that you're able to have?
Yeah, we're very lucky to have so much talent across the back line, and I feel like we're all getting such a great understanding of each other's habits and as we operate. But I think we're all just so open-minded and willing to learn. Whenever we feel we can do better, we're very honest in communicating that and kind of working together to get on the same page and trying in the same direction to make sure improve and always be a more cohesive unit. So I feel like there's so much we can all learn from each other because we each have different super strengths, that it's just a constant cycle of development, observing one another, talking about things and just trying to take the things that others do better than us to our game. And I feel like I've learned a lot from playing with last year into this year and from Rebe coming into the side too. And as you say, our fullbacks are just incredible as well, 1v1 defending and going forward. So I've got a lot of learning that I've done from my teammates and plenty more to do. And I feel like we all share that same mindset, which is really positive.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch the fluidity of the formations and the tactics and how Rebecca is able to come in and out of that back line and all the different things that Jonas had y'all do this year. Now, unfortunately, Esme, last time out, not everyone's favorite day at Audi Field, but I know that the team's been back hard at work this week, trying to fix that. What has this week of training been like to bounce back? I mean, you guys have been playing so well, and all of a sudden you have a performance, lose 3-0 to Gotham. So, how have you guys been talking about that, processing that, and making sure everything's straightened out for Friday night against Angel City?
Yeah. We were all so frustrated with our first half performance. It was really poor. I was really frustrated on a personal level. And I feel like as a team, we are very self-critical and we're very open and acknowledge when there's things that could be done better and weren't good enough. And it's just been a case of trying to take the learnings that we can from last week, knowing that that was just not us at all, and then just try and feed on positive energy, create enthusiasm and passion and motivation within the group to right the wrongs of last week. This weekend, obviously Angel City have been playing really, really well this season, so we know it's a tough opponent, and that's a really, really good thing for us because it's really helped to focus everyone, kind of putting last weekend behind us and then preparing for the challenge that's to come this week. As I say, with loads of positive energy. The training city this week's been really high and a real level as well. We've been challenging each other and having loads of battles all the way over the pitch, which has been a lot of fun, very, very competitive. And I feel like we're in a good spot to, as I say, right the wrongs of last week.
Ray Morgan here on the Hoffman Show. Spirit host Angel City Friday night, and that night game under the lights. Audi's been rowdy this year. It's been a lot of fun to be there. But what's playing those night games under the lights? Does it feel different? Is the energy a little bit different when you kind of feel like it's under that kind of spotlight?
Yeah, atmospheric. It feels like showtime almost when the floodlights are on and you're walking out and there's fireworks. Although I don't think this week because we've got all the and everything. But usually it feels very atmospheric and moody, and the crowd is just incredible. And last week when we were playing poorly and behind 3-0, they were still so vocal and just trying to lift us the comeback, which we tried our best and we played a lot better second half, feeding off that energy. Wasn't enough. We just felt like we couldn't get in the back of the net all day, but hopefully that'll change, and we've got that out of our system, ready to score loads of goals on Friday and have a little show under the lights.
Be fun. Esme Morgan with us, as always. Great chat. Thanks so much, and best of luck this weekend.
Thank you very much.
All right. So the funny thing is, we taped that yesterday, and then I said, hey, I should have asked you about the pets this week because they had like dogs and cats from the Humane Society that visited Anthony, and she goes, yeah, you should have. You'll hear why next in Real Things Real People Said to Real Microphones. Hoffman Show. We're on the team at 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube too at the team 980. We have a ton to get to on the real things front. So, Anthony, any housekeeping that we have for tomorrow that we want to let folks know about, or are we just going to get right to it?
We're on till 7 tomorrow.
We are, because the Capitals won, which means the Nationals are not on our station, which means we will proudly do our show till 7 o'clock on a Friday. Honestly, yes, being off at 5:30 on a Friday, who doesn't want to be off an hour and a half early on a Friday? But I'll be just going to the Audi Field afterwards, so I was going to have to be down here. I'm not even working from home tomorrow. Anthony,
You are in with me.
I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Are you excited about that?
Yeah.
Are you
it gets lonely sometimes in here on Friday.
You just get lonely on Fridays?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure the whole building's empty.
Everybody's gone, dude.
Well,
Everybody.
Tomorrow we'll be in it together. Eventually, wifey will be here too, because she might meet me dead after the show, but who knows? Maybe she'll come in early and play some silly game with us or something.
Oh yeah, a nice little bit.
Yeah, she'll make us look dumb with corporate lingo or something.
Oh man, I'm not ready for that. I need to brush off my.
Shouldn't tempt her with a good time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time for real things real people said into real microphones.
Real things.
We're not gonna be sucked this year.
Real people.
5 and 11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All right, so I promised you that the Esme Morgan interview had a part 2, if you will, that was real things adjacent. And so she mentioned we'll have the puppies at the pitch on Friday because they're trying to get some doggos adopted. And they had some pups and kittens come into their practice earlier in the week. And she goes, no, you really should have asked me about that. And so I said, well, fine. I guess I'll just hit record again. And Anthony, this is why.
Bonus question. Esme, tell us what happened earlier this week when the pets came to visit. What happened?
So we had 3 puppies and a little kitten come in to visit, and I absolutely fell in love with the Biscuit. So the following day, I took my boyfriend to the shelter to meet her so I could get his full approval. And yet we've registered to adopt Biscuit. So little Biscuit's going to be at the game, I believe, on Friday. So I'll get to see her then. And then once she's had all her vet checks, I'll be able to bring her into my home. So I'm so excited.
Is that your first pet, or is this? Give us a little bit more background here. What are we getting ourselves?
It's my first pet as a grown adult. I had no family, but yeah, my first I'm responsible for. So it's a lot, but I've been doing lots of Googling and research and looking for cat trees. It's very exciting, and I'm going to make sure Biscuit has a very happy and loving life.
I love it so much. Biscuit, welcome home. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And that's how Biscuit, as we got Biscuit.
Biscuit is a nice name.
It's a great name for a cat. Just imagine though the Wolf Trap animal shelter, I believe, is the one that they were working with, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna bring some pets to practice, and you're gonna help get them adopted." And Esme's like, "I'll take one." And no, we said we were gonna help get them adopted. She's like, "I know, I'm gonna adopt one."
Nah, that's mad dope, man. I want an animal now too.
Anthony, there's also a version that we put on my Instagram page at Hoffman.sports where there's some video and pictures of Biscuit.
Oh, wow.
Very cute.
I need to check it out.
Very cute cat. Also, there's pictures of the puppies. And if you want to adopt a dog or a cat, there'll be some at Audi Field tomorrow night.
Have you and Rachel thought about adopting one?
Yes. There's a reason we haven't.
Okay.
They're expensive, and they limit your freedom.
They do.
And we have decided that we are hoping eventually to have a 2-legged child, and at that point we will have no freedom, and at that point we will consider getting a 4-legged child as well.
That's smart.
Because we like being able to just say, we can leave our house and stay out as long as we want.
Yeah.
And not clean up any malfeasance.
Yeah. So nicely put.
Yeah. So that's where we're at right now. Have you thought about getting a pet?
I have, but I need to move out of where I live now.
Yeah.
Because I'm gone too often.
Yeah. All right. Other real things real people said in real microphones, courtesy of the New Heights podcast, Jason and Travis Kelce's pod. They had Ben Affleck on, and he had a story about playing catch with Tom Brady. And boy, was it a story.
We heard that you once got to run routes with Tom Brady.
What was that like?
How many completions did we get? What kind of routes were you running?
I don't know if they have a name, but I'm sure I disgraced every receiver that's ever run a route. But to this day, aside from the birth of my children, that was the greatest ever. He was like, I need someone to play catch with. Happened to be on vacation at the same place with him.
This was as legit as it gets. You were helping Tom get ready for the season.
I don't know how much I was helping him. I think he was like, I'm going to blow this dude's now. I'm going to call him up. But the greatest moment of that experience was he was like, okay, come here. And I get to him and he's like, it's the Super Bowl, fourth quarter. We got 23 seconds. It's 4th and 18. I was like,
This is why he's the best.
It was amazing, dude. He goes, and just run straight. Don't turn around. I'm going to get you the ball in the end zone. I was like, don't turn around. He was like, don't look back. I was like, I'm in the Super Bowl now. So he's like, look, calls it out. And I start running. I don't look back. I'm sure to him it seemed like this. He's like, I've never seen somebody run in slow motion before. But like to me, I was going as fast as you can go. But I'm like wondering, when's this ball going to show up? And I look, I just feel it like right out in front of me. And it was a little far for me. I think he was like, he probably adjusted back and it's still not backing up, you know what I mean? And I reach out and I have to go, all I have to extend, I fucking catch the ball. It was incredible. I called everybody I knew, but it was like the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me. And I lived a full life of dreams, right? In that, whatever it was, hour of playing catch.
You had a real life Sandlot moment. You were small. Ladies and gentlemen, just put that glove up there, boy.
And that's the story of Ben Affleck playing catch with Tom Brady.
Hey, so people really I think storytelling is such a great art, and it's something I sort of kind of lack. But when I hear other people tell stories very good, I was just like, dang, man, I wish I could do that.
I think taking out some of the sort of kindas would probably help.
Well, that too.
Because then you get to be more direct.
Yeah.
Because you've had, even Brady setting the stage for them. Boy, we're in the Super Bowl. Could you imagine he comes in the huddle, their huddle? He's like, all right, Ben, we're kind of sort of in the Super Bowl. Maybe on the 23 seconds left, I want you to run straight and try not to look back. Sort of, kind of.
Sort of, kind of.
This is my advice to you, Anthony. If you want to become a better storyteller, be more direct.
It's just so many thoughts going on in my head at all times.
You got to slow it down just a little bit. You got to slow it down so that you have just a little bit of time to make sure that the words come out.
Okay.
In the proper succinctness, but they really hit with the effect that you want.
Got you.
That's our show. We'll see you tomorrow back here on the Team 980.